Hey guys, welcome back to Activate Your Best Health. I know Leslie and I recently have had a ton of people that come to us with questions or myths that they've heard about GLP-1. So we really want to dig in and kind of give you guys some little nuggets of information that allow you to really know how you can maximize the GLP-1 route if you decide to take that for weight loss or for other reasons, which we'll kind of get to at the end, and really make sure that you have the best time while you're on it, because nobody likes to have these potential side effects that could happen. So the number one myth that I want to really touch on, and I know Leslie and I, we've kicked this around a ton, is that GLP-1s are solely for weight loss. You hear all about this stuff where, Manjaro or any GLP, fill in the blank, is an incredible tool where you can just stick yourself once a week and magically the weight sheds off, right? Now, here's the thing. Ultimately, we are just attacking the weight loss portion. That's a side effect. We're attacking insulin signaling. We're attacking inflammation, the liver fat that sometimes gets accumulated, and even attacking cardiovascular risk. Can you imagine just being able to take a GLP-1, not for the weight loss, but to help protect your heart? It's pretty incredible. And I do know that Leslie, recently you started taking GLP-1. Clearly you're not in it to lose the weight. So let's hear about why you wanted to start the pulse dosing or the microdosing.
Thanks, John. So yeah, there's a plethora, you like that word, of benefits other than just weight loss that comes with it. Weight loss is the primary reason why it's being used, but they're finding out that it has a lot more benefits than just that. It has benefits on the brain, the heart, the liver, the GI tract, the pancreas. So the list goes on, and I'm going to let Dr. Sidoris in the next episode dive into all those things in detail. But that's the main reason, John, why I started doing it. And to be honest, it was more of the main number one was to reduce inflammation. And then,
No, that's awesome.
training the way I train and having the inflammation, and you just want to not have too much. Obviously, inflammation is necessary, but
And what are your thoughts on it so far? So how long ago did you kind of start, and what are you thinking?
7 week, 8 weeks. And for me, I take a very small dose once a week, and I could really see how people lose weight on it because I have to force myself, even at that low dose, to get in my protein intake, and it's a struggle. And you're talking to a guy who tracks everything in grams in his diet, whether I'm trying to cut or whatever. It's just been ingrained into my DNA over the past several decades. I just track, regardless of the situation. I weigh it, track it. So yeah, for me, I noticed there was a significant decrease in my protein intake. So I've had to really be cognizant of making sure that I get in enough protein, and I can see how people aren't getting enough because they're not in tune, like someone like myself who's in the field and pays attention to their protein intake. So everybody that we've been putting onto it that come to me for nutrition stuff, I was like, hey, you got to do me two favors. One, increase your protein intake at 1 gram per pound, and you have to track it. And number two is we have to do some sort of resistance training at least twice a week. So those are the two things that I've really been discussing with people. So that's been my take on it so far. It's just the struggle of getting in that protein intake, because if you don't feel like eating, you definitely don't feel like eating protein, because it's not one of the, out of the three macronutrients, protein's the least desirable, right? It's the least palatable. Like, you don't get a lot of proteins out there. They're like, that's so good. But you get that a lot with fats and carbs. We're on the fifth generation now, and they're getting better and better, and AI is helping it accelerate.
Yeah. Now I love that you actually touched on the fact of protein intake and resistance training. So one of the things that a lot of people on social media or just Googling, you may see certain things like Ozempic face, or you have all this loose skin, or you have all these other side effects where you can lose this muscle mass, right? And I know that this is a big piece to this, and some people may be afraid of taking these GLP-1s because they see all this stuff online. And that's one thing that, we really want to clear up for you guys is ultimately it just comes down to what are you putting in your body? It's not necessarily the compound itself that's going to make you lose the muscle mass, because just adding the GLP-1 directly, if all other parameters are equal, doesn't make you lose the muscle mass. What makes you lose the muscle mass, Leslie?
Well, not eating is going to make listen, your muscle is the largest organ in your body, right? The more muscle we have, the more we can eat. Just plain and simple. More calories we burn. Your metabolism is based off your lean muscle tissue. So if we don't eat, we can't build muscle or even maintain our current status quo. I think that would be the number one goal for people. And these are my opinions, but the number one goal for people that are on these GLP-1s that need to lose quite a bit of weight, substantial amount. And there's no shortage of people out there in that boat. Maintaining their current muscle mass. If you think about if you've been carrying around 300 plus pounds and typically it's for people that are like that have been decades or whatever, they probably have a good amount of lean muscle tissue underneath all that fat, especially in the lower body, because you can't like walk around 300 pounds and not have quads that are massive. You're just going to develop that lean muscle tissue by carrying around 300 plus pounds. So a minimum of fat requirement would be about 20% minimum of your diet. And I'm a big advocate of track, right? So how do you know where you're not if we're not tracking? How do you know where you're not at? How do you know where you're at financially if you don't look at your bank account, right? If we're not looking at those things and looking at our numbers financially, you don't know. So if you're not doing that with your health, you don't know your numbers. That's the one thing I say. And then, let's not turn the resistance training into rocket science, because it's probably the easiest thing you're going to do, honestly. And it doesn't require what you and I do, right? Go to the gym. Typically, I break my body parts down into push, pull, lower body twice a week. And remember, these aren't absolutes too either. If your body hasn't recovered yet, wait another day. If it's not recovered, don't train. That's how you get injured. But give me 2 days, run through these machines. The machines now are golden. Absolutely good at anything you're going to want to achieve to maintain your current muscle mass. You can run through those 30 minutes twice a week. So you're talking about an hour a week. That's all the body's going to require for you to do to maintain your current muscle mass. And then also with your, increase in your eating your proteins.
Yeah, I love that, because it really dispels a lot of the myths around the muscle mass loss and all the issues. Really, when you do that, you're putting your body into a very stressful state as well. You're going to kick that cortisol up. And at that point, you're basically being anorexic if you're not eating enough, right?
I mean, you're going to lose weight on these GLP-1s, but when we're on a GLP-1, what are we doing? We're reducing our caloric intake because we don't feel like eating, right? It's going to play on multiple hormones. So we're going to touch on the main ones here, the GLP-1, which is a hormone in the body, peptides. So it's going to slow down your gastric emptying, right? And you're not going to feel hungry. So you're going to eat less. So where I'm going with this is eating the protein, right, is going to help you in the long run to maintain that lean muscle mass. When you stop on the GLP, you're not going to have what we call skinny fat. So pick a diet that you can maintain after you start to titrate. If you get to your goal weight, 100, whatever that is, then you titrate. You're not just going to come off that, correct? You're probably going to titrate down into probably a maintenance dose. So at that point, pick a diet that you're going to be able to go with and sustain long term. And for me, that's a nice balanced diet with a good balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And I think those, for most people, with how our society is built, is sustainable for everyone. The end goal is like increase protein, no matter what diet it is. Don't overthink those things either, birthdays or holidays. Just don't turn one day into 1 month.
Yeah, or months, plural.
Or months, yeah.
So that's definitely crucial. So that's a big piece there is, food is ultimately medicine in itself. So like if you look at food from that lens, you can do a lot with food. Get the seed oils out of your diet, get sugar out of your diet. Like these are very basic things. Replace the pop with water, like very basic high level things that should be pretty easy for people to see. I know sometimes it's not easy, but ultimately, how much do you prioritize your health? That's what it comes down to. Okay, so now the next piece here. Another myth, GLP-1s are just expensive drugs for lazy people, right? Well, the truth here is obesity is a metabolic disease, and it's not really like a willpower problem. It's not like it's, a drug addiction where, just riding on willpower. It's actually a metabolic disease within your body. And the GLP-1s are just one tool that you can put in your toolbox that will help you start getting momentum. And that momentum can sometimes be super crucial. So it's not a solution that you just want to stay on for the rest of your life. This is something to get the car moving in the right direction so that you can get other lifestyle pieces in place so that that GLP-1 isn't needed once the other pieces are in place. Because sometimes just getting the other pieces in place aren't going to move the needle very much or as much as you would hope. And then now you're going to mentally not be with it because you're like, I only lost, 10 pounds when I was looking for 60 and all the other factors. So this is just something to get that first leg up so you can make the changes to have a healthier life all the way around. You are putting yourself into that reality, and this is a tool to get you there initially. So now we're going to kind of get into some tips and tricks and little hacks that you can do to optimize the therapy while you're on it. So one thing, a lot of people just think, oh, hey, I need to lose X amount of weight. More is better. I'll lose it faster, right? Bad idea. Couple reasons. Number one, if you do that with a GLP-1, I promise you, you are not going to have a very fun time. If you aren't starting at that low titration dose and you just try to start at the mid dose or anything like that, you're going to not probably be able to go work. You're going to be on the couch in between the bed and the toilet. It's not going to be fun. So start low and titrate up in dose over time so your body can acclimate to this new compound you're putting in your body. So you want to help build the metabolic tolerance so that your body doesn't slow that gastric emptying and then you get constipated or you're super nauseous or you have all these other GI side effects. And I know that Leslie did a good job there of outlining that earlier.
Yeah, I would suggest two, three things here, and I struggle with this one, so I can relate. If you can slow down or stop alcohol, it's a good thing, right? I'm a bourbon guy, so it's been a struggle for me. I'll admit I enjoyed my bourbon cigars, but if you can without a problem, because when you drink alcohol, the body first thing it wants to do is get rid of it. But if we're taking a GLP-1 especially at a high dose, it slows down that gastric emptying. So it's just going to sit in there in the gut, right? The other thing I would do is like take some sort of a probiotic, prebiotic.
Okay. One other thing that I want to do too is, those tips are incredible about the alcohol consumption. That 100% makes a big difference, along with a probiotic. Don't just go to the grocery store and think a probiotic and yogurt is going to do the trick. You need to get a high quality probiotic. If the probiotic doesn't make it down and survive all the acid in your stomach, guess what? It doesn't really work because the probiotic has to actually make it to your intestines. So the probiotic needs to be something that has a delivery mechanism that is able to survive an acidic environment and actually release in an alkaline environment to do that. Go ahead, Leslie. Was there one more point that you wanted to add?
Yeah, magnesium.
Yeah, it's huge. Definitely. That helps a lot, especially before bed. It can help a lot of cramping, and there's a lot of benefits with magnesium. And honestly, most people, like I would say over 80% of people, the number is probably higher,
Oh
are
yeah.
deficient in magnesium. So that's a very big one that you likely want to add. Now, the next thing here, the timing tip, when to dose these GLP-1s. If you dose them in the evening, after a small meal, you can help reduce some of that nausea. It also kind of goes into play of like if you dose something in the morning right away and you get the nausea, now you've got all this nausea during your workday or during some event that you're trying to go do. Versus if you do it at night after a small meal, you can just sleep through some of that nausea. So that's something to consider as well. Now, I know we did talk about the protein first and lifting heavy things. Leslie kind of nailed that one and took that one home and gave you the 1 gram of protein per body pound of body weight. That's crucial. It helps so much. It helps you maintain the muscle mass. And not just that, but the bone density, especially as people age, you lose the bone density. And now if you're having things that work against your bone density on top of age, now you're really accelerating that bone loss. And nobody wants to fall and break a hip or have issues like that, right? Another thing too that Leslie touched on earlier as well is, supporting your gut. And this is huge. I know that we were talking about actually implementing a kind of a premium GLP-1 service for people where before we start people on GLP-1s, we would just address the microbiome issues right away before we do anything. Because here's the thing. If you get on one of these GLP-1s, yes, it does help your gut. Yes, it does help the microbiome to some degree. But what happens when you stop? Now you've still got potentially leaky gut or gut issues, and now the weight can rebound back up. And then it's just a constant up and down, up and down. You're spending more money, you're spending more time. You can get depressed because you're not seeing the effects that you want to be long lasting. Just avoid the roller coaster and attack the gut issues up front. I know that magnesium's crucial there too, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% correct. Those are the two things. Even before you and I partnered up on this venture, that's the very first two things we would address is our gut microbiome and your hormones. If those two things ain't right, it's very difficult for you to reach any goal, regardless of what that is. Whether it's weight gain, weight loss, athletic performance. If your gut is not in balance, which is your first brain, then we're going to struggle. And if your hormones aren't right, we're going to struggle.
We'll kind of get into one last piece here. And it's how can you really amplify the effects of the GLP-1s? We'll get into this piece before we kind of get into the future of GLPs and kind of what's coming. But some things that you can also do is enhance certain aspects of the GLP-1, specifically in terms of its effects, or add to it in other ways. One of my favorites, peptide-wise, to add to this is AOD. So AOD 9604, AOD stands for anti-obesity drug. This is actually a fragment of growth hormone that allows you to lose chunks of weight while making sure that you preserve that muscle mass. So if muscle wasting and bone density are a big concern, especially if you're a female, this is something that you really want to consider because you can actually amplify the weight loss effects of the GLP-1, but you can also make sure that you're maintaining the bone density and maintaining strength and muscle mass and potentially even increase lean muscle mass as well while reducing visceral fat. So that's one of my favorites. Super incredible peptide. I know that Dr. Sidoris loves adding some of these compounds as well. I know another big one too that we've had a lot of people, and you can speak on this one as well, Leslie, is some of the growth hormone secretagogues, specifically tesamorelin. I mean, it's one of the awesome ones because of the half-life being so long. So you only have to worry about dosing once a day. Adding the ability to increase your growth hormone production on top of all of the things that GLP-1s can do can also help with the weight loss, making sure that there aren't wrinkles that appear, making sure that you also don't have muscle wasting, making sure that your sleep is so ideal so that you can get rid of a lot of the oxidative stress when you sleep. Is there anything else that you want to add to that too, Leslie? Because I know I'm kind of taking the mic right now, but
No, yeah, you're
want you to
fine.
chime in.
Yeah, you're nailing it. But yeah, when I started those, I tell you what, one thing I noticed was I had a deeper sleep. Like I slept like a baby for the first time in a long time. I felt my sleep was a lot deeper than what it was in the past. Other things started to fall into place. But yeah, but that was the one thing that I did notice that was my sleep just improved significantly.
I love the dreams and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that. That's a whole nother podcast. Some of these
Yeah.
things, you get some crazy dreams out there. Like, holy crap, I ain't dreamt like that since I was a teenager. But yeah, it's awesome.
Now, another one too that I'll kind of cover here as well is, what about energy, right? So you're losing weight, maybe your hormones are getting in check and you're kind of doing the other pieces, but maybe you're just low on energy because through the past diet or your past lifestyle choices, maybe the mitochondria in your body are kind of injured, right? So how do you fix that? There are actually peptides out there that allow you to do that. MOTS-C is an incredible one. SS31 would be another one. And these actually go in and heal the mitochondria so that they can be much more efficient and potentially even increase the number of mitochondria in the cell, which is pretty incredible. And I know that we've seen a lot of people have some pretty incredible results about that around the energy side of things too. And once you get your energy centers right, I mean, it opens up a lot of doors and a lot of possibilities for different things that you can do to heal and increase physical performance. So I definitely want to make sure that that's mentioned as well. I know recently as well, Leslie, we have also explored a lot of adding NAD plus so that people can get rid of the oxidative stress. It can help flush certain issues that are going on in your body. It also helps cognitively. It can help brain function. There's so much that NAD can do, and you don't necessarily have to just take NAD through an IV anymore. You can use it through sub-Q injections, IM injections, so that you can do these things at home, which is pretty incredible. Is there anything you want to add to that before we kind of get into the future of GLPs?
You had mentioned on being tired. I just want people to realize, like, these GLP-1s aren't causing you to be tired. It's the caloric deficit that you're in because of not eating so much. Just be aware of that. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And to just point out the fact that the main reason why most diets fail is because we don't titrate down on our caloric budget. We just go from eating 3,000 calories to, oh, now I'm eating 900 calories. Yeah, you're going to be tired. You're going to be very tired. These compounds have cured the one thing that makes diets fail: hunger. Okay? That's why all diets fail. That's why bodybuilders fail. That's why they sign up to do a bodybuilding show, and then for 16 weeks, they get, 1, 2 weeks out, and they have to withdraw because they got hungry. It's a bear. Believe me, I've been there. So we have basically solved hunger in the diet process.
I'm so glad that we added that to this, because there are people that have come to us with that concern. So now let's kind of get into the future of GLPs. So GLP-1s are kind of this bucket where a lot of different compounds live. The big one that first hit was semaglutide, and then recently the big craze has been tirzepatide, or you may know that by Mounjaro. So where are things going? Tirzepatide is actually a dual agonist. So GLP-1 is what semaglutide is. That's a GLP-1 agonist. Then you get into the tirzepatide, and that's a dual. So it's a GLP-1 plus GIP. So what's next, right? So Lilly is actually launching retatrutide. That's actually a triple agonist. So what they've also done is not only have they taken a GLP-1 GIP, now they've also added a glucagon receptor agonist as well, which is super interesting. And now in terms of like performance or effects, just to kind of give you guys an idea, the difference between semaglutide and tirzepatide typically is about 30 to 40% enhanced weight loss for tirzepatide versus semaglutide. Now, by adding the triple agonist over the dual, the difference between tirzepatide and retatrutide is another 30 to 40%. So now imagine comparing retatrutide to semaglutide and how much different those compounds can be. There's a huge difference there. There are other ones that are also available for, you can get into oral dosing for certain ones. Like they even have oral forms or drops for semaglutide. And I know I'll have Leslie kind of touch base on this next piece again, because he's the one that's physically doing it right now. But it's microdosing or pulse dosing some of these compounds, because they found that, like Leslie, he's in shape. He's not doing this to lose weight, but he's also learned through some of these conferences that we've been to, all of these ancillary benefits that you can get, from cognitive support to lowering cardiovascular risk for heart attack, to getting rid of fatty liver, to all of these other things. And why would you not want to tap into this to allow yourself to get the benefits without necessarily trying to target the fat loss? And there are protocols to doing that. And we'll kind of get into kind of what Leslie's doing here as what one of those protocols are. But two ways of combating this before I turn the mic over to you, Leslie, is you can go the microdosing route, which is still a weekly dose, but you're just taking a very small amount, or you can go with the pulse dose. What a pulse dose is, you're still taking a small amount, but you don't take it weekly. You would take it every other week. So it's just enough to get those receptors triggered and to get some of those benefits going. Hopping back over to you, Leslie, what kind of protocol are you on here, and what exactly have you seen, and what all are you looking forward to?
The lowest dose is once a week, which I did for 5 weeks, and I recently bumped that to 0.5 once a week. Semaglutide. So
Yes.
once that's done, I'm going to venture off into the tirzepatide. But I'm excited to do that because of the added GIP in there. 80 to 90% of the population is going to be on some form of these GLP-1s for not even for weight loss, but the added benefits it's also going to be interesting to see that If you can live another 10 years is what I'm hearing, then you're going to increase your life expectancy. What is it, 85 now? For a man, it's going to go into the,
Triples. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well into the triples. Yeah.
if you can do that, think about that. But you can do that and have quality. Like we can live to 100 now, but are you living? But it's high quality of that. You're going to take that. You know what I mean? I'm just excited for, the future of these compounds. And that's why I started dosing is I wanted to get ahead of the curve and didn't want to be left behind.
Yeah. No, I love it. Now, one thing that I want to leave you guys with is to remember this point. GLP-1s are not a crutch or a wonder drug or some wonder pill that will just make fat melt off. They're a catalyst. They're a catalyst if you use them correctly so that you can spark the change that needs to happen in your lifestyle to get the health goals and wellness goals that you desire. Don't use them as a crutch because news break, once you stop taking them, if you're using them as a crutch and you haven't fixed other things in your lifestyle, what do you think is going to happen to your health? What do you think is going to happen to your weight? It's not going to stay where it's at while you're on them. So use them as a catalyst to get other aspects of your life, going to the gym, eating right, making sure you're looking at the ingredients in what you eat. We'll leave you with this. Be healthy, figure the ingredients out so you know what you're ingesting. How can you track something if you don't know what's in it, right? And use these as a catalyst to change for the better. Is there anything else that you want to leave everybody with, Leslie, or are we good?
I'm good.
You're
Thanks for
good.
your time. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And this is going to be a video that we are going to send a majority of the patients that are inquiring about GLP-1s or that we prescribe them so that they're able to really maximize this. We really want to provide a service where we're not just giving out this compound. We want to actually make sure the education piece is in place so people can use these compounds in the most effective and healthy way possible. Thank you for tuning in. Bye now.